We have the pleasure of having Jonathan here with us today. Please tell us about yourself. I'm so excited to hear about you and whatever you want to share.
Well, I have a unique background, but I got into all weird things early because I had a very dysfunctional family. So by the time I was 12, I was reading self help books. I became a certified hypnotist at age 13. I was meditating every day. By the time I was 16, I was into LSD and MDMA and other drugs. And I was really trying to heal myself to get to a place of inner peace. And that got me interviewing 100 spiritual leaders, ranging from the late Mother Teresa to the Dalai Lama. And I wrote books about that. And the books got popular. I got on Oprah a bunch of times. And I kind of had a hidden thing in that I got my master's degree on doing MDMA therapy when it was still legal, also known as ecstasy or Molly. Now that the FDA is going to approve it for a medically prescribed drug sometime in 2024, I lead trainings on helping therapists do this type of therapy, which is phenomenally effective. And that's why the FDA is going to be approving it sometime this year.
Fascinating. I didn't know the whole background. And I have a 15-year-old right now, and we see a lot of teens escapism using different drugs. I mean, everybody's looking for healing. I think, especially if you do come from dysfunctional families for what various reasons, of course. There is hey, I don't want to be a part of this, but I'm really curious to hear your, your firsthand experience in that, in whatever you want to share, of course. What was it that you were trying to escape from, or was it that you needed more love? And of course, that's, always a big piece of it. There's acceptance and feeling that we want to we want to belong, we want to exist, we want to be safe. And I'm really curious to hear your story about that.
Sure. I was a suicidally depressed teenager, thinking of suicide a lot. Yeah, it was a tough upbringing. Brother and sister are both in and out of mental hospitals. They didn't go the way of healing, so they've had a real hard time. And when I came across, well, first, when I came across other psychedelics like LSD or psilocybin, I saw that we kind of live in a small mental box and that there's a whole other world outside of my little framework. And I experienced deep levels of peace and love. And I decided I would dedicate my life to finding the best methods for getting back there. Well, when I came across MDMA, I saw that I could kind of unwind my neuroses and unwind the trauma and anxiety I had felt. And in fact, studies are now showing that MDMA is the most effective medicine by far for dealing with PTSD. And it's also like a Swiss Army knife. It's very good in couples therapy and in helping with depression and anxiety. So I discovered that, decided to do research on it at school. And since then, that was 1984, I've led about 800 journeys from people from 40 different countries. And when COVID hit, I started to do these journeys over Zoom, which surprised everybody that works even better over Zoom. After finding a certain inner peace in myself, I've tried to use these medicines to help other people find a sense of inner peace and also help couples restore the love in their relationship. And it works really well for that as well.
That's beautiful, and it's so necessary. During the pandemic, I think it unearthed a lot of dysfunction that we have in society and in families, and we dismantled communities and with isolation, and so much of that came through. In fact, I've been in contact with the child abuse specialist of New Mexico, Dr. Strickler, and she was reporting to me that there has been a 12-fold increase in child torture cases, not only in New Mexico, but this was like right after the isolation, was lifted and kids went back to school. That's what was noted, because then they could go to the doctor and actually be seen. And she got in touch with her friends across the United States to see if this is just New Mexico because we're so underserved, or is it elsewhere too, where it was everywhere. It was
Yeah.
everywhere. And so this is a study that's being done through an IRB approved research. And obviously we need innovative methods to move forward, move through the trauma that these children have withstood. And, what's happening with the parents, what's happening with the caretakers and the adults and the couples, right?
Mhm.
That's really at the source of all of this. So your work is just incredible, incredible, and it's such service to society at large. We
Yeah,
need this.
it's kind of exploding now. I teach these courses on how to do this type of therapy, and we're getting hundreds of therapists, doctors, coaches taking the course. It's only an 8-week training, but when it does become medically prescribed, I want to make sure that people know how to do this therapy because everything can be abused, and there's a good way to do this therapy and a not so good way. And so I'm getting like 100 emails a day at this point.
I
It's
love that.
almost ridiculous because people who've tried this are getting such dramatic results that the word is spreading pretty quick. And the FDA has never in its history taken a legal drug and made it medically prescribed, never once. So this will be a new thing that has never happened before. And the reason is it took, 40 years and $50 million of studies to show that it's just incredibly safe and effective. So it's an exciting time to be in this space.
It's wonderful. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, if people want to know about the training, that's at mdmatraining.net.
.net. We'll make sure that it's in the show notes for those
Mhm.
interested. So, and I'm curious, because the research obviously shows that there needs to be work done before, work done during, and after. It's not that the medicine is it; it's a tool to get
Mhm.
us to where we want to be, and that's in my own coaching when I'm using microdosing with different medicines or macrodosing. Um, I hold people very accountable to their commitment to that self-discovery, to their personal evolution. Otherwise, it just doesn't pan out to work as well,
Mhm.
right? It may
Mhm.
momentarily with psilocybin, with all of them, momentarily you feel good, and then the next it's not as good because you're not invested. You actually don't have practices around it, or you're not integrating or whatnot. I'm very curious to hear what you do in your program and how you lead people in this. What happens, if you have a pre-work, post-work, what do you do?
Yeah. I have a protocol that I've kind of tinkered with over 40 years and I find works really well now. I do a 1 hour session, usually over Zoom, finding out what their issues are, what success looks like, if there's any contraindications for taking the medicine, psychotic breaks, or if they're on certain medicines that won't integrate with the MDMA. That takes about an hour. Then we set a date for 5 hours. And as I said, most of the time, it's now over Zoom, which surprised
Incredible.
everyone, including me. I only do MDMA therapy over Zoom. The other psychedelics are way too unpredictable. But of maybe 400 sessions I've done on Zoom, not a single person has had a problem. So it's very consistent. And we spend up to 5 hours together and we dive deep into their therapeutic issues. I am a psychotherapist, so I use a lot of different techniques that I teach in the training, and everything works better when somebody's on MDMA. It's kind of like you can do 2 or 3 years of therapy in one afternoon, which is very moving both for me and the client. Then, about a week later, we do an integration session. And one thing I've noticed is that in a lot of psychedelic therapy, there's not enough emphasis on integration. And so I put a big emphasis on integration. I developed a method that keeps people motivated over years. It only takes 3 minutes a day, not a day, 3 minutes a week to do. And yet, if people use this method, they will stay very motivated to make changes over time. I used to be a motivational speaker at like Google and Microsoft, and I honed a method that is really effective. And people can read about it in Ecstasy as Medicine, the book I wrote. But when people use this method, they're able to be consistent with changing behavior in a way that they saw on their journey would help their life.
Wow. That's incredible. What a tool. What a tool. And so let's talk about your book because I know that's something that is when did you finish it? When did you publish it?
It's only been out a couple months.
A couple months. Congratulations. Writing books is like giving birth as really is.
Uh,
And so yeah, tell us about the book. and the whole name and where people can find it, and we'll make sure it's all in the show notes as well.
The book is called Ecstasy as Medicine, and the subtitle is How MDMA Therapy Can Help You Overcome Trauma, Anxiety, and Depression and Feel More Love. And I've been actually a little surprised at the response. People are really loving this book. It's gotten a lot of Amazon reviews, and they're all 5 stars, which surprised me. I wrote it quickly, so, but it's very informative. I go a lot into how to do this therapy and the techniques and the results that I've gotten. I go a little bit into the history of MDMA, which is interesting, and what the future is likely to be. When it does get FDA approval, the clinics will be very expensive, the legal clinics. So I'm kind of part of what could be called the underground movement, where we can charge like 1/15th the amount. So I'm hoping to help millions of people by training thousands of therapists and such and coaches on how to do this therapy, because it really is a breakthrough medicine. A lot of people can't afford to do 5 years of therapy, or they don't have the time. But if you do this right, it really is very effective. I also want to get this motivational method out, because a lot of people know what to do, but they don't do what they know.
Mm.
40% of Americans are obese. There's no mystery here. You eat less or exercise more, but in order to do that, you really have to be consistent over months. And most people don't have a system for staying motivated, or a system for integrating their deepest insights into their daily life. And I think the system I created is very helpful in that way.
And, sometimes what I've seen as well is those tools are even more powerful, right? Because, you take the medicine once, but the tool that you're sharing, it's a life skill
Yeah.
that you can utilize forever, and to teach your kids about it. I'm all about that, that pass on the good stuff. We pass on the bad stuff way easily, but passing on the good stuff and really implementing. I always talk about this too. If you talk about it, let's do it. Let's walk it. Knowledge is a stepping stone, but you got to walk the talk. You can't just talk about it. And I hold myself accountable to that. So I'm super excited to read your book and learn your skills. This is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with the world. It's very necessary right now.
Well, I'm actually rather selfish. I wanted to heal myself. So that's how I got on this mission of what are the easiest and most effective psychological and spiritual growth techniques. And when I get a chance to talk to, like, Deepak Chopra or Dalai Lama or whoever it is, I try to steal their best techniques and then bring it out to a larger audience, preferably for free whenever possible. I do offer a lot of stuff for free on my websites. I don't need the money, but um, the most people are suffering from psychological challenges that are not that hard to solve if they have the right technology, the right skill, the right medicine, the right type of therapy. And I hate to see people suffer unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind, just out of curiosity, give us a sample? Give us a sample of one of the tools that you use.
Sure. Well, I could do a very simple 2-minute guided meditation for finding inner peace. And then I'll talk about one of the motivational methods that I use as well. So if you have 2 minutes and you aren't driving or something, you can just close your eyes for a moment. And if you can put your hand over the middle of your chest, that's good. And just feel the center of your chest. Think of a person or a child or a pet that you have great affection for, and remember a special time with this being, a time where you felt really connected. And see if you can feel your heart connection with this being. If it helps, you can imagine hugging them or holding them in a way that helps you to feel even more care and connection. And think of how grateful you are to have this being in your life. And wherever you feel a sense of peace or care or relaxation, just savor that feeling, those sensations, like you're savoring a deep, fresh breath of air. And feel grateful for any peace or calmness or care that you're feeling, giving a thank you to the universe. And notice if you feel more peaceful and open now. And as you can, just come back to the room and slowly begin to open your eyes. And notice that you feel a little bit more peaceful and open now. And that's like 90 seconds. That doesn't take very long. And with practice, people can get better. One of the things I like about MDMA is that it leads to a state of love and peace. And with practice, I can help people get back to that place without the medicine, like with training wheels, that you learn how to get back there. I used to meditate 2 hours a day to get to a place of deep peace and love. Now it only takes me about 20 to 30 seconds.
Powerful, powerful. Thank
Well,
you for
and here's another simple method, Lida, motivational method. Let's say you think after taking this medicine that it would be good to meditate 10 minutes a day, or it'd be good to connect with a friend that you haven't connected with for a while. You can make a contract with yourself and with me that you'll meditate 10 minutes a day and you'll contact that friend by the end of the week. And if you don't, you have to throw away or rip up $1. Now, I've had people who were snorting $20,000 of cocaine a month stop to avoid ripping up $1. It's a funny technique, but it does work for people because people will do anything not to rip up money or throw it away. So that's an example. There's a lot of different methods I provide in the book and in the training, but they're mostly ones that people haven't heard of because I got them from people, gurus in the Himalayas, or people who are billionaires who don't want to share that technique normally. So my goal is to really get these really effective techniques out there, and some of them are really kind of fun.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And it reminds me of Atomic Habits. I think it's James Clear. That's
Yeah.
right. And he talks about creating an obstacle for something that you don't want to be able to reach, a habit you're trying to get rid
Mhm.
of, and creating ease when you're trying to bring in a new habit and implementation into life. It's all about that, right? What serves us versus what doesn't. Yeah, really cool. Thank you for that. I'm gonna use those. Tell us more. I would love to know more about you, about your work. Do you do cohorts? Is it something, with your facilitation crew? Like, is it something that is rolling as far as
Mhm.
enrollment goes? How does all of that work?
Sure. Well, I have this online course. It's 8 weeks, and there's an application process. So you don't have to be licensed, but we do want people to have some experience working with people. And in the course, it's really interesting. People do sessions with each other. They practice very specific skills. I talk a lot about how to use this medicines, MDMA, especially for like couples work or spiritual acceleration, how to overcome trauma. There's a lot of different innovative techniques I like to teach, but people practice with each other. Last course had a couple hundred people from 40 different countries. So it's definitely expanding. And when you get FDA approval, there's going to be a lot of people wanting this therapy, but they don't want to pay $15,000 for it. So I've asked the people taking this that they charge under $1,000 at first, which is, if you can solve your psychological challenge in under $1,000, you're doing great. And also to help veterans because a lot of veterans suffer from trauma. So they do some sessions for veterans for free because there's a bunch of veterans killing themselves every day due to trauma. And until MDMA therapy came along, there really wasn't an effective way for helping these people. One of the things I like about this, though, and you might find this, is that you surround yourself with a community of people who are like minded. And there's a lot of issues to go over, like how to avoid legal problems, how to get pure medicine. 40% of the medicine of MDMA in the United States is not pure. And therefore, people have problems because it's often mixed with methamphetamine or bath salts. So we have a whole thing about how to get pure medicine without legal risk. So there's a lot to know. When I was studying this back in 1984, I asked myself, how are people going to abuse this drug? Because you can't even get addicted to it. If you take it a lot, it starts to not have any effect. But the thought that people would use it in all night dance parties never occurred to me. And that's how it was used in raves. And it's fun. I've been to a couple raves. But the people who have not taken it therapeutically, when they take it therapeutically, they go, oh my God, I didn't know that this drug could do this. So it's a whole new ballgame when you actually take it with a person who can guide you in helpful ways.
Oh, it's a whole different realm, right? When there's a guide and your intention is to gain healing and to live a better life, whatever that looks like for you. It's a
Yeah.
whole different thing. There's Dr. Lehman in New Mexico. I'm in New Mexico at University of New Mexico. He got approval for an MDMA study for postpartum moms 6 months
Mm.
out with addiction and PTSD. This is a study
Uh,
that's been done before. And I think they should be in the middle of it now. It started in the summer. But, he always says, if it was just the medicine, then the rave culture, there wouldn't be any problem, right? But like, oh, I have no issues, no depression. No, but it really is what I call the container of how we
yeah.
approach using these really as medicine. These are powerful tools that we can use to get that extra like I want to, but you gotta want to do it. You gotta want to do the work because it's gonna unravel certain things too. And not necessarily with MDMA, I would say, but psilocybin and LSD specifically is and ayahuasca come to mind or DMT as well, where you really get super connected with your trauma. You can if you're
Mhm.
going in there to do shadow work and MDMA too. But yeah, I'm curious to hear about your experience of holding, all these sessions. What do you see? So the individuals do visit their trauma, but it's an observation. MDMA is a very loving molecule, and so I'm curious to hear your experience with your clients.
Well, although I do lead other psychedelic sessions, I only do MDMA over Zoom because psychedelics can bring up trauma. And if they're on like LSD or psilocybin, it can be challenging for sure. On MDMA, because it reduces blood flow to the amygdala part of the brain, people can go into their trauma and still be very peaceful and relaxed. So it doesn't, people don't have bad trips. I've never had of 800 sessions I've led, nobody has had a bad trip. Whereas with LSD or psilocybin, maybe 20% of clients have very challenging trips. So it's a really different class of medicine, although psilocybin is great for helping people with depression. Same thing with ketamine. So I think those medicines have usefulness, but they're not so much therapeutic agents. You just kind of give them the drug and you help people be safe, but you can't really talk to people and do therapy on psilocybin or LSD because they're not very interactive.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I lead sessions as well, but with MDMA, I have the least experience of leading. I have my own experiences with it.
Mhm, mhm.
But that's what's very curious about it, that during the MDMA session, you're more engaged. You can be more engaged.
Absolutely. In fact, my parents wanted to know why I was so enthusiastic about this. So I said, well, the only way to know is if you try it. And to my surprise, my conservative parents said, well, we'd like to try it. So I
Wow.
gave them, the medicine. Told them how to take a set and setting. Well, a year later, I asked them if they'd taken it. And they said, yeah, they had. And I said, well, what happened? And they said, well, nothing happened. The medicine didn't have any effect. I was kind of surprised by this. So I said, well, what'd you end up doing that night? And they said, well, we waited like 10 or 15 minutes. Nothing happened. Well, it ends up it takes about 45 minutes for it to take effect. So after they thought the medicine wasn't effective, they said that they sat on the couch and they talked about how much they loved each other and how wonderful their lives were. And they said it ended up being the best night of our 50-year marriage. The only disappointment was the drug never took effect. I'm laughing the whole time. So MDMA just makes you feel like you're the most clear-headed, most open, and most peaceful you've ever been in your life. It doesn't so much feel like a drug. And from that place, you can go into some of the hard issues and people are open, they're curious, they don't have their defenses. And it's like amazing accelerator. It often takes a year or two to get total trust and empathy and connection in a therapeutic context normally. With MDMA, it takes about 10 minutes.
Incredible. It's incredible.
And it's really fun. You're a pretty impatient person. So it was hard for me to like week after week, I'm trying to get trust with a client. Felt guilty taking their money. We haven't really gotten to the issue. But with MDMA, you get full trust rapport in 10 minutes, and then you have 4.5 hours to like almost do brain surgery because you're getting deep into their psyche.
Yes, and the resistance is gone.
Yeah.
And you're able to truly get into the subconscious and the conscious and do the work, and it's so cool. It's so cool. It reminds me of, like a Nintendo game, and there's
Mhm.
the mushroom that you catch, and it shoots you forward when you wanna use
Uh,
it. That's what keeps coming up for me. With psychedelics in general, depending on what you wanna gain out of them, this is what they do, but, I mean, in couples therapy, it's incredible. Like, if we had parents, right, who are arguing or having issues or they can't communicate what their needs are to each other because of their past traumas and they're bringing all of that to this relationship and they have 4 kids, right, and then the kids
mhm.
are all involved in that. So bringing those two individuals together and having a session with them.
Yeah, it's pretty miraculous. I wrote a book called Communication Miracles for Couples many years ago, and Oprah had me on her show, and she really loved it, so it became a big bestseller. So I ended up doing a lot of couples therapy, but I found it really slow and frustrating, and
Yeah.
just, it could take 2 years before a couple could work out something, and when I started to do couples therapy on MDMA, it felt like I was doing 3 years, 4 years of therapy in one afternoon, because when couples are not defensive and they love each other and they feel connected and they trust each other, which the drug does temporarily, then it's really easy to work out problems. Trying to work out problems when you don't trust your mate and you don't feel connected to them is almost impossible. I'll be doing a course later this year just on couples therapy and MDMA, and it's an exciting area. It's actually how MDMA first became popular in the 70s. It
Hmm.
was popularized by therapists doing couples therapy with it because they were getting amazing results. And then of course, it got it very popular and got into the recreational use, but it was originally seen as a breakthrough couples therapy drug.
Incredible. That's so cool. That's so cool. And here we are going back to it, right? Yeah, we lose our way and then we have to find the way back, right?
Yeah, it took 50 years, but now we have the studies proving that's effective.
I'm so grateful, to be honest with you, to be living in this very moment, to be able to talk about this openly. It took me, myself, years. I've been doing this work for about a decade now. It took me a decade to be able to actually come out and talk about it. I talked about some of these results, the MDMA study at the FDA level and the Hopkins study at the NBC, just educating the public. I think the public needs to know that psychedelics are extremely helpful, but it's also like playing with fire. So
Mhm.
you have to be with trusted people. You have to seek experts in the field. Um, who have shown some work that is not coming in from an egotistical space, or you go to these retreats and they're just taking your thousands of dollars, and the results are you're in not a good state when you come back because there's no integration. And so really doing your research in knowing what path, what step to take towards that, towards using it as a therapeutic agent. So yeah, awesome. Awesome.
There
Thank you.
there's a lot to learn in that way. Of course, I mentioned a lot in the book, but in the course I lead, there's like 40 hours of information, and then everybody in the class is sharing information with each other. So, like any science, you can do it on a superficial level, but if you want to create real miracles, it helps to know the nuance and the subtleties of what makes it both safe, effective, and really a breakthrough medicine.
That's incredible. Yeah, yeah. And how did you start your company organization? Was it just like, I'm interested in the story.
Well, once the government made it illegal in 1985, I had clients who I'd done the study with come back to me and they would refer friends so I was just occasionally doing it as a underground thing. I was a psychotherapist, but just through referrals. I wasn't trying to market myself because it was illegal. But in the last couple of years, uh, I think people have become aware that something's going on in this space. As I said, I'm getting 10 people a day asking me to do this. I have a big referral list, people I train, etc. But you're right that it's competing with people who are just in it for the money or don't do proper integration. So I kind of see that it's a race between the people who are just trying to make a buck and the people who are real healers who want to use this in a way that can heal people a lot quicker than we've ever had the chance to heal people before. Depression is 500% more than it was 50 years ago. Teens are having a very hard time. And I want to give people hope that in a world where there's a lot of technology, one of the technologies is how to heal people better, and that this is coming on board and is going to change things.
Mm. That makes my heart happy that this is we're having this conversation. How young do you go? Like, you know,
Yeah.
far as standpoint, right? Like you have a suicidal teen. That's a tough area. And I have people that reach out to me about that. And it is tough. And there's not much guidance or people talking about it openly because people are afraid. You and I aren't, but majority are.
It depends on the specifics. I have worked with it with people as young as 15 with a parent in the room and obviously with their permission. That's a little bit unusual, but I haven't ever had any problems and it's gone extremely well. But you do need a situation if somebody's under 18 to definitely have a parent permission and, in fact, hopefully there at the time that the session is happening as well.
Do you ever do it with a family? Like have mom, dad, and kid involved?
That's really rare. I actually have done it twice, and it was miraculous, but it's so hard to get, 4 people all willing to do that.
Yeah.
But in the 2 times I did do that, it was, uh, completely miraculous. Everybody was on the same page, they worked out everything. It
I
was,
love that.
very moving. Everybody was in tears by the end, including me.
I love that so much. I currently practice end of life medicine, palliative and hospice medicine. And oftentimes what I see is the family conflict surrounding a dying patient. And so I always think about at a time that I can use plant medicine or non-plant medicine, just these therapies to bring the family together and really allow them to heal with their dying loved one.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that? That be I haven't, obviously experienced that yet, but I think it would be a really cool thing to be a part of.
And they do have some promising studies showing that people can overcome their end of life issues and anxiety with a good dose of psilocybin or LSD. And I certainly hope that that becomes part of hospice care in general, and hopefully that will happen soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm in that realm trying to move things along because I'm practicing it and I
Mhm.
see the need for it so much. But yeah, no, great work, great work. And yeah, so you said you have a couple of websites. Tell us where is the best way to get in touch with you, if people are interested in the work you do.
Sure. Well, I have a website, xtcasmedicine.com. And if people put in their email address, they get a document on 10 ways to avoid bad psychedelic trips and 12 questions to ask that always lead to instant intimacy with anyone. And that people really love that document because it really can bond any relationship very quickly. And there's a lot of information about the book and guides and my next training. There's a discount code for that. If people want to learn about the training, they can go to mdmatraining.net. And the next training's March 2nd. Um, and they can learn everything they want about that, or they can contact me through either of those websites as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was so nice talking with you and exploring what you do and just this realm. It's fun to talk about it openly and know that, there are people out there that really care about the healing potential um, of these therapeutics and really believe in the healing potential of the human being,
Mhm.
regardless of what kind of trauma we've withstood. Because there's a lot of trauma happening every day, across the globe. Knowing that there are ways that we can get through it is so hopeful.
Yeah, and as healers, to embrace a new technology like this is both fun and very emotionally satisfying. I love my work, and it's really wonderful to witness the miracle of human healing in a quick way that is relatively easy.
Beautiful. And on that note, thank you so much for being here, and maybe we'll have you on another time.
Okay, well, thank you, Lita. Thanks for the great questions.